Divorce is such a selfish process because it's all about me and what is going on with me and what this person is doing to me and what I am going through. And I often tell parents, it's not about you.
Collateral damage. Most likely you have heard this term before. Collateral damage is defined as the unintended injuries or deaths caused by an action. In divorce, children are collateral damage. Their mind, body, and soul are injured, sometimes severely, as a result of the ongoing drama that their fighting parents engage in. Welcome to Black Parent TV, a place of peace for divorcing families. My guest and I will talk about children as collateral damage and what Black parents must do to reduce custody and divorce drama so our families can heal. And not just heal, but to give our children the foundation they need to compete and be successful in a difficult world. Attorney Lester L. Barclay is the author of the book, The African American Guide to Divorce and Drama, Breaking Up Without Breaking Down. Attorney Barclay is the managing partner of the Barclay Law Group in Chicago, Illinois. He has earned a sterling reputation as a skilled litigator who seeks to maintain the family's integrity during and after divorce. His passionate calling is to help children who are so often collateral damage in custody and divorce matters. Frequently, the court appoints him guardian ad litem to protect the interests of children in marital breakups. His influential and ethnically diverse law firm serves an equally diverse clientele. The firm's list of clients has included Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the estate of Emmett Till, the National Black Evangelical Association, and the handling of family law matters involving professional athletes like Eddie Curry, Richard Dent, and Dwayne Wade. In addition to his law practice, Attorney Barclay is a legal advocate for the disadvantaged and a helpful mentor to young attorneys. Generous and compassionate, and in spite of his demanding schedule, Barclay has served as a teen Sunday school teacher for more than 20 years. He is a member of the National Bar Association, Cook County Bar Association, and the Chicago Bar Association. Attorney Barclay lives in Chicago with his wife and their children. Welcome, okay. Attorney Barclay. I'm so delighted that you are here with me for Black Parent TV. Tell me something. Who are those beautiful Black women behind you?
Well, to the right of me is Jewel LaFontant, who was the first African-American Deputy U.S. Solicitor General in the United States, who is on our Legal Hall of Fame in my office conference room. We do have some male representation. We have Barack Obama and also Harold Washington. These are all Chicago, Illinois-based, lawyers. And the next person is Ida Platt, who was the first African-American lawyer in the state of Illinois. And we wanted to dedicate a wall of fame to these icons in the legal community in Chicago. And so we did that, and we had those illustrated just to do that as a dedication.
Awesome. I'm really, really impressed by their backgrounds, and definitely we all need to do a little bit more history on our successful Black women who've come before us. So thank you for that. All right. I read your book to show everyone so that they can definitely go out and get it. And let me just tell you that I found your book to be comprehensive, bold, unapologetic, full of real talk. I mean, real talk. Informative, educational, engaging, and sometimes entertaining. One of the things that surprised me about your book that I didn't expect was that you spent almost 71% of your pages talking about the family dimension, the personal dimension, and the community dimension. And only a few, that's 71%. So the rest of the time you spent really digging into the legal and financial piece. And I found that interesting as a lawyer that you spent so much of your time talking about these other dimensions and weaving in law, of course. But I wanted to know, did you do that on purpose?
That was fully intentional, Pam. I think what we looked at was focusing on what really matters in the context of going through this process. You know, when it comes to the financial issues, judges can basically determine who's going to get what, who's going to get the house, who's going to get the car, who's going to get the bank account, the pensions, the retirement accounts. However, the real issue when it comes to divorce is emotionally, how is this going to impact my family? How is this going to change my world? Are my kids going to be okay after this? You know, am I going to be okay after going through this? So we really wanted to focus on that aspect of the process. I often say, take care of your emotional issues before you commence your legal ones, because the legal ones they'll fall in line. You may not agree with the result, but you know, in terms of what a judge decides how he's going to allocate property or how she's going to determine who's going to get what. But your emotional issues are so far more important. How are you going to rebuild? How are you going to retool? How are your children going to come through this? You know, are you going to need therapy? Are you going to need help? Those are some of the issues and concerns that we wanted to focus on.
I've talked to a lot of attorneys in the work that I do, and I've worked for an attorney. And I've had an attorney in my own divorce. And the emotional piece is not really something discussed. It's not at the forefront. It's not really dealt with. It's the legal and the financial. It seems to me that there is a disservice that's done when we aren't confronted with the emotional issues, when we aren't asked to deal with those before we deal with the financial and the legal issues. Why is this emotional piece such I'm going to call it non-discussion?
I think it depends on the lawyer, because if you had someone who was culturally competent, they might understand the importance and significance of having that aspect really thoroughly vetted. And what I mean by that is, you know, a person goes through this once or twice in a lifetime. Your biggest investment is your family. There's nothing greater than that. And when you go down the aisle, or if you go to the justice of the peace, however you do it, and you say, I do, most people intend that will be for a lifetime. And when your marriage fails or you reach a tragic end and you can't quite pick up the pieces, you know, I've heard it described as, you know, almost like you go to one of these amusement parks and you're going through like a deep tunnel where you basically are in the water in a little boat and you're looking for the light. It's pitch dark there. And you basically just look at, okay, where am I going to see the light, or when am I going to see the light again? And so what we do is we do a little hand holding to get people to the point where they see the light again. And so that requires a little bit of extra help in terms of processing it, breaking it down for people. You know, how's this going to impact my family, my broader family? You know, my in-laws, will they like me anymore? Will they like me less? You know, who's going to invite me to the 4th of July barbecue? We went as a couple. Now they don't know which one of us to invite. And if I showed up with a new significant other, you know, how's that going to be viewed? So some of this is very complicated. And these are the issues that people have to deal with day in and day out. Yes, the legal process, that will take care of itself. You know, the financial matters, that's a matter of crunching numbers and deciding who's going to get what and how much they're going to actually walk away from.
I'm going to ask this question bluntly, and I think I can because you were so blunt and direct in your book. So I'm going to be that person in this interview. And I want to ask, but why does it matter? I mean, for your firm, you all are legal and financial. Why do you even care about the emotional stuff? You're going to get your fee, you're going to get paid. Why care about the emotional component of this?
Because we want African American families and other families as well, because we do have a broader base that we represent clients. We want them to emerge healthy and whole. It is important to us that you land on your feet at the end of this process and that you're not just escorted somewhere and left there to kind of figure this out and how to, rebuild these pieces, these shattered pieces of your life. And so we basically use a method that requires a little bit more hand-holding, sitting down with people, talking with them about the process, how this might impact them, what this is going to mean when you pull this trigger. These are some of the dynamics that you're going to feel emotionally, might be even spiritually, but whatever you're dealing with, this is what you need to understand this process to mean. And then to get them to a point where once they complete the cycle, that they see and understand how important it is to just see themselves, how they reemerge, how they rebuild, and to see that whole metamorphosis where a person comes in and they're beat down, they're disappointed, they're hurt, they don't know how this is going to go, but to see them when they come through the cycle after you've done the work, and they've done the work to get them to that point, that's a wonderful thing to see them standing tall and rebuilding their lives with their children.
Yeah, and I do see the advantage of that because a whole parent, a healed parent, can be a better parent to that child and a better example of what it is to go through difficulties and come out on the other end, not completely broken, but stronger, better.
Yes.
I loved the stories in your book and because they were very real, very personal. And I also loved the advice that you gave throughout the book. So I want to actually explore a few of your pieces of advice in some of the stories. And I categorize them as stunning and bold and hell to the no, no, no. Are you familiar with Bishop Bullwinkle? Hell to the no, no, no. Okay. Some of the advice you gave, I was like, hell to the no, no, no. So I want to mention those and then get your opinion as well as balance that with the stunning and bold comments. Okay. Are you cool with that?
I'm good.
Okay. So page 62. Page 62. I'm going to read what you said. And it's very simple. Stunning and bold. You said, in contrast, though, this is under the personal dimension. You say, in contrast, though not as apparent as the needs of divorced women, divorced men are hurting too. I was like, whoo, stunning and bold. Any comment on that?
Yes, I think that having handled close to 1,500 divorces, been involved in one way or the other, I've seen a number of patterns. And men tend to hide their emotions in ways that sometimes are less revealing to women. And just because, he can possibly go out and find someone a little bit easier than she might, when an African-American male loves a woman and he goes through a divorce process, his heart is broken in ways that you cannot imagine. Now, I'm not talking about the guy that has emotionally moved on and he may have, other interests that are in the pipeline. But I've seen some brothers who their hearts have been so severely injured as a result of going through this process. And African-American women have resources They have girlfriends that they can rely upon that will tell them what the boundaries are. Girl, I wouldn't take that. I don't know why you up still in that. I would just walk away from that. African American men, on the other hand, tend to hold it inside. And so if the marriage isn't going particularly well, they're not going to go around telling people. They're not going to share with their mother that their marriage is not going well. They're not going to share with their girlfriends or generally with their work colleagues. They just don't do that. Occasionally, you might find a brother at the barbershop who is giving advice just in general conversation. You can pick up a tidbit here and there, but he's got problems himself at home. So he's not a reliable source. But African American men are less likely to seek professional help by way of therapeutic help and intervention. So a lot of this is bottled up inside, and they struggle and they have difficulty with this. So sometimes you think that just because he's a male, just because he may be the more dominant factor in the marital relationship, but his heart is heavy and he's hurting.
What a good reason for women, especially Black women, to have a lot more compassion for our Black men than we do, because we don't see this pain. Maybe it's acted out in other ways that we don't appreciate, but we don't see the pain. And sometimes when we do, to be honest, we may not care that much. Like, you did this to yourself or you caused this problem. So if you're in pain, that's a natural, outcome of what happened. But I see it as a reason to have a lot more compassion.
Absolutely. I think that if African American women knew the impact that divorce has on African American men, they would be a little bit more sensitive to that inner soul that he has, that this symbolizes failure. What did I do as the protector of this family, for these children? How did I fail my family? Why are we in this predicament? These are a lot of questions that we hear a lot from men that they don't verbalize to their wives, their spouses, to other women. Why is it that, because a lot of times in many instances, African American women are better educated. They often make more money. And so you already have this burden that he carries. But, now not to be there for my kids every day and not to hear the pitter patter of those feet running to the door to grab my leg when I come home. And some other man is going to be with my daughters. That's not what I want. That's not how I planned it. So it's very painful for many African American men who struggle with divorce.
Thank you for that. It makes me feel bad that I'm getting ready to go to the hell, to the no. But here it is on page 54. Compromise with your spouse. If the partner you are separating from or divorcing maneuvers the situation, legal or otherwise, in a way that places you over a barrel, plead for a little mercy, especially on behalf of the children. You may need to sacrifice some of your time and pride for the greater good of your children. So what I took issue was plead for a little mercy.
There is no greater gift than any of us can have than a child that has been entrusted in our hands. And sometimes when you see children who are suffering, who are dealing with issues that are beyond their control, and I like to think of it as empowerment or lack thereof. Children do not feel empowered to intervene. They don't have the ability to say, my opinion counts in this divorce matter. And when I'm representing children, I ask them, how's this going? Now, mom may have a different perception and dad may have a different perception. Oh, Johnny's fine. He's dealing with this. He's made the adjustment. And then I'll ask dad, and dad says, well, I haven't noticed anything different. It seems like, he's doing well in school. So I'll sit down with Johnny. Hey, Johnny, how's it going? How's this really affecting you? And then you see his eyes, the tears just sort of, start to flow. Johnny's heart is broken, but Johnny is not empowered to handle this. He can't say, well, mom, treat dad better. Dad, treat mom better. Let's stay together. And I've seen in one instance where a child said, well, since we're breaking up as a family and we're not going to live in this house together, we don't need this house. So he set it on fire. And so in his mind, he doesn't have the ability to fully process and understand this as an adult, what we're going through, what we're dealing with. So if it means that you have to take less for the sake of protecting and insulating Johnny or Mary or whoever it is, then you need to compromise. If that means that you have to swallow your pride, get rid of your ego so that your children feel good about themselves going through this process. I mean, as best as they can under the circumstances. That may mean that you might have to take a little bit less for their sake. And so that's why it's important that you don't think solely about yourself. When you have children, how's this going to impact them? And oftentimes I use this example, when you have a lawyer who's not culturally competent, who doesn't fully understand the dynamics of the African-American experience, that person might get you the house, the cars, the bank account. But the one thing that you wanted, and I'm speaking in terms of a female mother, the one thing you wanted your ex to have a relationship with their children. And now you've got all this stuff that you fought in the divorce for, and the lawyer did a great job getting you all these material things. But the one thing that is gone is that relationship between that father and those two children. And so you've destroyed that. Maybe you could have taken a little bit less to preserve that. But when you don't have someone who's culturally competent to understand, maybe enough is enough. Maybe this is where we draw the line. Maybe we need to work on preserving that relationship as well. Because in many instances, I see fathers who say, okay, let her have it. I'm just done. Mm-hmm. I'm done with you, and I'm done with these two kids as well. If they want to see me when they're 25 years, they can come see me. But all of you, I'm done with. Take it all. I'm moving on.
I don't know. I'm going to paraphrase this scripture, but what you just said reminds me of a scripture that says, what good is it if a man gains the whole world but loses his soul? It reminds me of that in a way. You get all of these things, but you've lost the soul of the family. You've lost the soul of the child. Yeah. Okay, so let's go a few more. Page 177 in your dynamic book. And that I'm going to read. In a highly contested divorce, this is stunning and bold, okay? In a highly contested divorce and custody battle, the judge kept uncooperative, I love this. The judge kept uncooperative parents from disrupting and jerking the children around by issuing a temporary order that required the parents to move in and out of the house on alternating weeks. Thus, the judge's order stabilized life and rest for the children, but disrupted the normal routines of the parents. His unusual but wise decision protected the essential needs of the children in the face of parents who refused to cooperate. I love that. Tell us a little bit more about that relevance.
Every once in a while, you got to think outside the box. Oftentimes, we have parents who are so wedded to a home, bricks and mortar, to the point where they cannot imagine themselves living anywhere except this castle that they've created for themselves. And so in that instance, what the judge basically said was, if you love this property so much,
Mm.
then I'm going to force you to do what children have to do so often and let you get a taste of it. Now, how often do you see a child who basically has to pack his book bag and go and prepare for a weekend visit with another parent or a week-long visit, however time there may be, and we don't think and consider how that goes with that child. That child has to, sometimes, without stability, without knowing, where am I going to be this week? It's going to change next week. What the vacation schedule is. They just have to go, and it's often uncomfortable for a child, and has significant impact on children when they're like, well, all I want to do is just stay in the bed this weekend. I don't want to get up and be here, there, and everywhere. But the adults, on the other hand, they've got it made because, they've got a comfortable place. They know where they're going to be. They don't have to pack up their stuff. And in this instance, the story there, when you have an adult that has to move out of the house every 2 weeks or every week, and we call it nesting. So we stabilize the child, we triage the children, make sure that they're stable, and we tell the parents, hey, you love this place so much that you can't live without it. Okay, you can live here a week, and then you can live here a week. But the children, we're going to make sure that going through this process, they're stable. Now, ultimately, the house got sold. But during this period of crisis, we wanted to bring some sense of stability to the children, at least familiarity, same house, same school district, same children in the neighborhood, friends. We're going to afford them that benefit, and we're going to let you guys be uncomfortable.
Yeah. That, Attorney Lester, the one biggest regret for me, I just may be very open here, is that my children had to go from home to home. Their lives were completely and wholly disrupted in the decision that was made. And if I could take anything back, it would be that father and I go back and forth in the home that they called comfort instead of them. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, a few more. I hope you're enjoying this. Page 76.
Okay.
This is the no, you did not get this right, attorney. All right. Children of divorce need the arc of both parents. You write, whether absent or present, all children need their father and mother. Okay, I get that. Each parent should take responsibility for nurturing their children's affection for the other parent, as this balance is emotionally healthy for them. I was all the way with you until you said that I had a responsibility for nurturing my child's affection for the other parent. That's when I was like, nope, he's going to have to explain this one. So please.
Absolutely. It is so important that you separate that child's relationship with their other parent for your relationship with that person as a spouse, as a significant other. And too often we see this. African-American men do this very often. They build independent relationships with their children. They don't mind paying child support. I'll often joke and say, I've never met an African-American man who did not want to pay child support. He just didn't want to give it to her.
Good point.
So almost 100% of the time, he does not want her to have the money. But what happens is they build independent relationships with their children. They want to do that without any interference. They want freedom and access to come and go. They don't want her to know their business, who they're seeing, what they're doing. I just want to be with my child. I want to see my children. I want full unfettered access to our children. Other than that, what happens is you have this inner conflict all the time. So can that spouse present the other person, other spouse, as someone who is positive. Well, your dad loves you, your mom loves you. Remember, I know mom and dad, we couldn't get along, but you know what? She really loves you. She really cares about you. He's really concerned about you. He's really supportive of you. He's crazy about you. Sometimes the bitterness that we experience in a divorce often is internalized by our children. And if we don't like them, then we expect our children not to like them as well. And that, I say, is wrong. We need to present that person in the most favorable light. And at 22 years old, 23, Yolanda will decide which side the bread was buttered on. Give her an opportunity to make that decision herself. It is not your job to alienate that child from that parent because they did you wrong, because they cheated on you, because they may have even been physically and verbally abusive to you. Now, I mean, there's some areas where you draw the line and abuse is. So I'm not advocating that you just embrace this person, as a role model for your child if they've been, abusive to you. But I'm saying if you just don't like this person because they pissed you off and he chose, Susie Ann over you and he did this and he did that, then let it go, because your children need to see that person as their parent. And your job is to present that person in the most favorable light so that the child can make an independent decision in years to come.
Yeah, if you really want to cripple your child's emotional and social and spiritual development, then talk bad about their parent.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, two more. Page 173, stunning and bold, I call it. And you say, every child of a divorced family suffers. Every single one. The only fair comparison to make between one child of divorce and another is in the degree of pain each child experiences. For this reason, all divorced parents should heed this message. Keep your children out of your divorce drama. You kind of touched on that, but you want to say anything else about that? Yes, keep them out.
I think that I have yet to find a child that has not been impacted by their parents' divorce. Some children do better than others, no doubt. But some children spend their lives emotionally damaged as a result of their parents' breakup. And so to the degree that you can keep your children out of your drama, that is so important. Children don't need to hear everything. They don't need to see everything. Remember when we were younger, where the older people would be in the living room, they said, grown people are talking, go outside and play. So we're like, what are they talking about that we can't hear? But that was important because you need to shield a child from certain things, because children internalize these things and they don't fully understand. Why would you give your child who's 2 years old a steak when that child needs baby food? And so children can't process things. I give you an example, sometimes how children see divorce. I will have a child who basically says, this process is taking forever, Mr. Barclay. I just don't understand why, Johnny's family, they had a divorce and they got it over with in 6 months and everything was good. And we've been in this 2 years and they can't even agree on anything. And it's just, I can't concentrate at school or anything. And so you hear these stories and they break your heart. And so if you think about, now you're from out east, so you could probably relate to this before you went to the West Coast. But you remember when the school started in September and the leaves would fall down and then the snow would come and then spring would come and then finally summertime and summer vacation. And it seemed like that was a cycle that took forever before you could get to the summertime. And now as adults, you look at it, you go like, okay, We are in the middle of April. We're almost a third of the way finished with 2021, right? Where did the time go? So the way adults process things is far different than the way children process them. And so this divorce could last a lifetime for a lot of children.
Yeah. All right, one more. This is the I don't think so. The good image of an absent father, which a divorced or separated woman presents to her children, can become their ark of hope. Negating a father who is not always present can be a double-edged sword. Mothers can reduce some drama by saying positive things to protect the absent father's image. And you said a little bit about that, but I want to know if you had anything else to say about, yet again, a mother's job and a mother's role is to say something positive about the father so it protects the child. When the father needs to, he needs to step up himself. So go for it.
So we cover another section that I think is prevalent in our community, dealing with parenting under some unusual circumstances. And that is what happens when daddy goes to jail. And when you have 25% to 30% of African American males who've had some encounter with the criminal justice system, what happens and what does that mean and what's the impact when dad goes to jail or if dad's in jail? What do you say to your child? Yeah, I'm divorcing him because he did X, Y, or Z. But the bottom line is that's still her father and she loves him. And so presenting him, dad may have made some mistakes, Denise, but he's always loved you. He's always cared about you. What he did in that instance is not reflective of who he is. He's as a father to you. He's always loved you. Yeah, he may be on drugs, but you know what? He's ill. He's not well. And if he was in his right mind and if he was able to really, really focus on what was important, it would be you. But dad's not well right now. And we just have to pray that he gets better and things get better for him so that you two can have a warm relationship. It's those kinds of things that give children hope, rather than to say, you know what, he wasn't no good when I met him. As I had one woman to say, we were proving up or finalizing a divorce case, and the judge said, "Well, ma'am, would you like to resume your maiden name?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, "What's your maiden name?" She says, "It's Johnson." And the judge said, "Well, okay, isn't that your married name?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "I knew that," and I'm not going to tell you what she called him. You wasn't no good when he couldn't even change my name, And so in terms of an attitude of who this person is, this is still the person that you said you would love and you would honor and you're going to grow old with. And something went wrong. And sometimes it may have been a lack of education, a lack of opportunity. He may have had dreams that were unfulfilled and he's frustrated. It could have been that he got involved with the wrong group. And it could be you that, you made it more difficult for him so he just tuned out and just, whatever. But the bottom line is, how do you present that child, that parent to that child, when you're parenting under these unusual circumstances, when dad's not there, you have to give them hope. As a child, you have to give them hope. It's not Santa Claus hope, but it's hope that, hey, every night when we say our prayers, we say a prayer for daddy, that he will be safe wherever he is, and that maybe he will come and see us, and that he will remember it's your birthday, whatever, but give that child hope.
I want to talk about collateral damage in a dark way. So I want to go to a dark place for just a few moments and come out with some light. Collateral damage, as I defined it in the introduction, is unintentional injury or harm. Yet while I was reading this book and trying to be very honest with myself and with the experiences that I've watched other women go through and even myself, I thought about collateral damage can be intentional too. That a parent can use their child against the other parent on purpose. And therefore, it's not really collateral damage in the unintentional way, it's collateral damage in the intentional way. What are your thoughts about that?
I think any way a child is impacted, whether it is intentional, which we see in more instances than you would probably want to basically know, or whether it's unintentional, the damage is what is of the greatest concern. Mm. And so, when children are the collateral damage of their parents' divorce failure, marriage failure. I have this saying that I've coined, and you probably will find it in the book. Just because you fail at marriage does not mean you have to fail at divorce. Mm. Mm. You don't have to go down this, loser, winner take all, crash and burn. I don't care about the outcome. You don't have to do that. There are people who are smart enough, who are sensitive enough, who are open enough, who are caring enough to basically insulate their children. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes I see some of the best results come when parents right away find a therapist who can work with their child to help their child understand that. I had one kid that said, all I want is I want a dozen eggs and I want to throw it on that wall to express how I feel about what has happened to my world. Okay, let's go to the grocery store. Let's get him some eggs, right? But he needs to basically get that out. And oftentimes, because in the African-American experience, we're not high on therapy, especially African-American men. Like I said earlier, Willie will go to the barbershop and listen to Tyrone talk about how he would handle things. And Tyrone don't know what he's talking about anyway. But Willie will not go to a therapist and get some real help. In many instances, if Willie would go to a therapist, we wouldn't be in divorce court. Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes what I see are Black women who just say, I just want to see if we can work this out. Yeah. And they're a lot more hopeful in many instances than African-American men. And so they just want to know that you're going to put some effort in this, that you're willing to go and try and sit down and talk with somebody that knows something that could possibly help us. And yet and still, he decides, I don't need any help. Mm-hmm. And what you see is the whole family that sort of falls apart as a result of his reluctance to seek professional assistance. So if we intervene and we get our children in therapy right away, if we get in therapy right away and quit having this false sense of, I got this, I'm in full control. No, you're not, because your emotions are going here, there, and everywhere. One day you're mad, the next day, you don't want to talk to him, you don't want to speak to, and your children are picking this up. Mm-hmm. So if we intervene and we stop the damage that is happening to our children, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, they're going to be better off if we basically stop the bleeding.
That's a wonderful segue to this other question that I wanted to ask, and that is hope. Can you use that word? What is the hope for us? You mentioned therapy. Is therapy the hope for us? Is it the hope for healing? Is it the hope for restoration for us? What is it?
It's very complicated because what you find is you have to go back and you have to look at it from a historical reference point. Marriage was something that was sacred, and that in many instances, particularly during the slave era, where we sought to have affirmation of our relationships through marriage. Instead, the law did not recognize Black people getting married, and we were the chattel of the slave owner. And so it was easy to sell Joe down river and to some other plantation. And even though he lived with what was his wife, that the whole fiber of the African American marriage experience was shattered. And years after years later, the same thing. So we picked up some horrible habits. Some men viewed themselves as, well, I could have multiple partners because that was what was done on the plantation. And so without making commitments and not having to make commitments because you didn't know what tomorrow was going to hold. So we have planted some vicious seeds in the marital soil in our experience. And so now what happens is that, she's a very beautiful young lady. She's gone to college. You may have gone to college as well. But some of these seeds that have been planted are not positive because, maybe he feels like, well, I need, as someone said, to have a pair and a spare. And she's just looking for someone to just make a commitment to her. And you haven't settled down. And so you bring certain habits in because my dad was this way. The way my dad spoke with my mom, spoke to my mom. The way you treat your husband is the way your aunt, who was married 3 times, treated him. You got your advice from her, and she had marital failure. And so you bring this into your marital relationship. And so when you look at it from a historical perspective, you have these seeds that are basically grown as weeds. And so if you can pluck out some of the weeds, then maybe you have a chance. But in many instances, when you grew up and you didn't have a father in the household, well, you didn't know what a father was supposed to do. So it's like going down a flight of stairs in a stairwell where there are no lights. You're just like taking one step at a time, hoping you land firmly on your feet because you don't know what you're actually going through and what could happen. And so from that perspective, you bring these horrible habits into a marital relationship, or you're just learning on the fly. And you're handling things it's like handling dynamite sometimes, and you think, I got this, and it blows up on you. And before you know it, you're at a point of no return. And then one day you wake up and I can't believe you served me with these papers. Well, what did you think? What's going to happen? Every Friday night you call me out of my name. You've been physical with me. Our children are seeing this. I'm done with this. Well, no, you can't leave me. And we see instances like that, but then we see regret too, because the person recognizes, man, I had a good woman. I blew this. And I have guys come in all the time and just say, man, if I could turn the clock back, that was, or sometimes they will come in the second time or even the third time for a divorce. And they're like, man, I should have kept the first one that I had. That was the best thing that I had. Thinking that the grass was greener on the other side.
You know what? My father has said that so many times about my mother. So many times he had a good thing. He should have done the right thing. And he's so humble about it. And I love it. So one last question before we go into my favorite segment, which is the rapid fire statements. You mentioned in the beginning how your firm deals with clients when they come on board, and definitely addressing the emotional component, which really moves me. My question now is about your firm. What would it take for your firm to take on more and more and more clients? Because what you do is so special and so necessary, and it's not across the board. Everyone isn't doing it the way you're doing it, but the way you're doing it is absolutely necessary. What do you all need in order to have more and more clients come to you so that you can handhold and take them through what is a very difficult process and have them come out somewhat whole? on the other side?
Well, what we need is we need people who want that kind of experience. And sometimes, even though we are not licensed in all of these jurisdictions, oftentimes we serve as a coach. So you might have your lawyer who is, let's say, your Caucasian lawyer who's representing you, but we often serve as an interpreter for some of the emotional dynamics and some of the cultural issues. And I've done this in cases with professional athletes where they got a whole group of lawyers, but you need somebody to walk in that can kind of interpret, hey, what's going on, how to get this person through this process. If you don't understand their background, the family's background culturally, and I'll give you an example. In every Black family, there's a big mama. And you talk about that in the book. But Big Mama is somebody that she's going to look you in the eye and tell you the truth. If you're wrong, she's going to tell you you're wrong. Everybody respects Big Mama because, and if you don't have a Big Mama in your family, shame on you, because she might be an aunt, she might be a grandmother, she might be a big sister, whatever she is. But she is that person that you can go to and get a straight answer. And she's not, if you're wrong, she's going to look you in the eye and say, you need to apologize and make that thing right. And so we all need that system of checks and balances. So when you have cultural big mamas, they are the people in the village that we respect, that we admire because, they're straight shooters. And so sometimes when you have lawyers who don't understand that, or sometimes you might have a lawyer who says, somebody might say, well, Judge, I'm not willing to sign these papers until I go and speak with my pastor about it. And the judge will ask me, well, Mr. Barclay, why does she think her pastor is more important than me? Because he is. I'm just sorry. She says she wants to have some spiritual guidance and she wants to have a prayer and see if everything is going to be all right. And she wants that kind of counsel. And sometimes that's not a lawyer's counsel. That's not hearing from the judge. She wants to hear from a higher power. And so, you just have to leave that be until she kind of comes down and now she's ready to deal with it. So I think that if you don't have someone who's culturally competent, who's willing to learn. And that's not to say that white lawyers are not good lawyers in these instances for African-American families. Many are. Many do an excellent job. But those are the ones that are willing to learn and cross cultural lines and understand family dynamics and really delve into, the why is it this way and why do you want to do it that way? The whole notion of just, how we view family, because oftentimes in a more Eurocentric fashion, it's us four and no more. But in the African, fashion, it's like, okay, we are a tribe, we are a village, and sometimes you give people the right to cross boundaries that may not happen in other cultures. I mean, for instance, if you showed up at church and you came as a couple, as a family, and all of a sudden one of the mothers said, "Where's your wife? How's she doing?" And you go like, "Well, that's none of your business." Yes, it is my business. I can ask. I have that right. I wear this white, little uniform or whatever. I'm on the missionary board. I can ask these kinds of questions. And so, do I need to give her a call? Or if they see you with somebody else, we allow for this to happen sometimes, where we don't just make decisions in a vacuum. Sometimes it's a community decision. It's a family decision. It's input from a number of people. Is that good? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but that's how we operate culturally in many instances.
So what would it take for more divorcing couples to come to your firm?
Probably, we're out there, we're marketing, we're working with families. And let's say, someone wants to consult even on the basis that, let's say it's a California family or it's a Washington D.C. family. We could not serve fully in the capacity as lawyer, but we can serve as advisor, divorce coach to help people get through this process so that they understand the dynamics. And so we have people who bring us in to consult just to do those things to help them get through the process, even though they have a lawyer, but sometimes they just need a coach that understands the legal system, understands the emotional dynamics of this whole process, understand, all of the community issues that are tied to this, all those dimensions. And we sort of tie that up. And a person calls, they call us sometimes before they call their lawyer. They call us sometimes after they call their lawyer. But they just wonder, can you break this down for us? And that's what we do on the sideline.
All right, are you ready for the rapid fire statements?
Yes.
Okay, now this is the rule.
Am I ready? You're gonna let me know if I'm ready or not, man.
You're ready. You're ready. So here are the rules of the game. I'm going to start this statement, and you're going to finish it. But you'll have to finish it with what comes right to your head. You can't think it through, write it down, no, right away, okay? Okay, there are 10. And I'll start with 10 and go down to 1. All right, Attorney Barclay, number 10. The most important resource a divorcing parent must secure is
an understanding of what you're about to go through and identifying resources that will help you get where you want to go.
Number 9, a parent who learns to forgive their ex
will often be the beneficiary of one who will be forgiven when they make mistakes in the eyes of their children.
Ooh, that's a good statement. All right, 8, a father who shows his heart to his kids
is someone who will always have the respect of his children.
That's delicious. 7, the legal system does not care about
African American families who often do not understand this process and often are left in the dark because it's often about money and children and not necessarily, and pretty much in that order. So money drives divorce. And that's the way the system is.
6, the biggest mistake parents make after the divorce is final is
thinking that your children were not impacted by your divorce.
So like when the divorce is over, then the pain is over. So let's keep it moving.
That's right.
5, anger is beneficial when
you show it in the right manner.
4, the Black community can reduce divorce drama by
being transparent about marriage, its successes and its failures.
Ooh, we need a whole another interview on that one. Number 3, the gift of divorce is
the gift of divorce is the freedom to re-emerge.
That's a tweet right there. That's a tweetable right there. Number 2, the Black church can best help divorcing families by?
Stop stigmatizing marital failure.
Number one, the number one thing parents must lose in order to win is?
Themselves.
Lose themselves. Wow.
Divorce is such a selfish process
Yeah.
because it's all about me and what is going on with me and what this person is doing to me and what I am going through. And I often tell parents, it's not about you. You brought these 3 children into the world. They are a gift, the 2 of you. And I use this example. I had a kid the other day that I was interviewing. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm a baker. I really enjoy baking. I bake cakes, right? I said, I make this smash and pound cake, and I said, I put my ingredients together. I said, I put some sugar in there, put some butter and blended that, then I put my flour in, I put my flavoring in there, put some bacon powder in there. And I said, why do you think I needed the eggs? And he said, well, I don't want no dry cake. And I said, oh, moisture. And I said, so when it comes to you, you are a makeup of your mom and dad. So your mom may be the sugar, your dad may be the flour. All these ingredients come together to make this cake. I said, so to me, it's so important that we have all the ingredients for your success. And so there are things that you're going to get from your mom. There are things you're going to get from your dad. And these things are important ingredients for life. Mm-hmm. So you want these ingredients. If God blessed you with 2 legs, you shouldn't have to hop along on one. Yeah. So parents have to basically explain to their children, it's not about me. It's about how you emerge through this process. So I tell mom, okay, you gotta stop crying. You gotta put on your big girl pants, because yes, it's painful, but we've got 3 kids. Dad, okay, I understand. You don't think this is fair. The system is against brothers. I get that. But you know what? You made 3 babies. They need some milk. They need some butter. They need some bacon. So, okay, quit complaining. We're not asking you to do anything more than what we're asking somebody else to do. Take care of your responsibility. It's not the system's responsibility to take care of your children. So you need to lose yourself. You need to get rid of, how you feel and what you feel is important. Now, if you don't have any children and you didn't bring any children into the world, we can evaluate that in a different way. But if we got, Denise and Diane and Tony, don't come talking to me about, it's about me, sir. It's about me. No, it's about them.
Wow. All right. That was some good stuff. I'm almost going into my laptop listening so intently on what you're saying because it's right on. This is I hate to say that this is the conclusion of our interview together because I've so enjoyed listening to you and engaging you and hearing more of your wisdom that is so full in your book. Can you tell those who are listening how to get in touch with you and your firm?
Well, you can always email me at lbarclay, BARCLAY, at barclaylawgroup.com. You can go to our website, www.barclaylawgroup.com, or you can call us at 312-553-0123. And you can get our book, go to Amazon and get our book, and basically learn how to navigate through the troubled waters of divorce and emerge healthy and whole.
Thank you so much, Attorney Lester Barclay of the Barclay Law Group. I so enjoyed our time together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.